The next question asks to write the electron configuration for gallium. Gallium has an atomic number 31 and is located right here on the periodic table. On the table below it, it's the first electron in this 4p shell. So, like I said before, electron configurations start to have a pattern, especially as the shells get higher. The beginning starts, so the 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 always stays the same since this fills those electrons. So we'll begin by writing it the same way. We'll write it as 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, and now we're at this final 3s2, so where magnesium was, because the 1 shell was filled, the 2 shell was filled, and we know 2 electrons of this 3s shell was filled. Next, we're going to be looking across, so at this 3p orbital, since that's fully filled, since gallium's in the 4th shell, you'll write that as 3p6. Now, one thing to note is as we get beyond, you'll see this 3D row down here, so a transition metal row. Even though this is in the 3rd shell, the energy for a D shell is higher since there's more electrons that can fit on it. So you'll still read the periodic table from left to right starting at this 4s shell, but you'll just write the 3D shell after the 4s shell since the electrons in that shell contain a higher energy and are bigger than the 4s shell. So after that 3p6 shell, we'll write the 4s2 shell, reading left since it's fully filled. Next we'll write this 3D shell. Now there's always 10 electrons in a D shell, and then there's always 14 in an F shell, and always a full 6 in a P shell, and then 2 in an S shell. So 3D10. And then since there's only 1 electron in that 4p orbital filled, you're going to write that as 4p1. And so now a good way for looking at valence electrons in both of these examples is to look at the highest shell and see how many electrons in the highest shell. So for example, for magnesium, it's this 3s shell is the highest shell. And since we know there's 2 electrons and only 2 in the S, that means there's 2 valence electrons in magnesium. And then for gallium, you will not count the 3D shell considering it's not the highest, the 4th shell is. You look at the 4s2 and the 4p1, and since 2 plus 1 is 3, there's 3 valence electrons. In gallium.